Hello, Madhu. Welcome to the Japan CPO Association's annual event. Can you please introduce yourself?
Of course. Thank you for having me, Ken. I'm Madhu Muthukumar. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Notion. I've been at the company for just about 9 months now.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about life before product management?
Yeah, of course. So my parents immigrated to the United States from India. They're both scientists, both geneticists. They wanted me to be a doctor growing up. And so I went through high school and into university to prepare to be a doctor. In university, I switched paths after working for 2 summers in biophysics labs. I went into mathematics and graduated with a degree in biology and a degree in mathematics. I always found myself fascinated with systems. After graduating, I went to law school, not a traditional path, but thought that it would be great to learn about human systems, not just biological systems or mathematical systems. And then from there, went into consulting, where I got to work with a lot of media companies and education companies. And in that period, was exposed again to building software. I had done it in high school and in university, but never found myself quite good, and got an opportunity to work for the government of South Africa building software for their K through 12 Department of Basic Education, and was very fortunate to work with a number of engineers, designers, researchers, to help improve the state of education. I spent nearly a year in South Africa and sort of discovered product management in that process. So moved back to the United States and kicked off a career in the space.
Great. Can you share how your experience as studying law and also studying math and as well as consultancy, how has that helped shape your role as a product chief product officer?
Sure. I think careers are nonlinear, and you always gain experience from the things that you do, whether it's playing sport or pursuing personal hobbies or working. I have always been a curious person. I've enjoyed diving deep into various topics. And even in my product management career, I've been very lucky to work on social media at Twitter, virtual reality at Oculus, fintech at Robinhood, and now tools at Notion. And I'd say that, sort of each step helped build a different set of skills, whether that's communication, team leading, research, empathy for customers, a sense of being international and worldwide. It's all added up. I think one of the unique parts of being a product manager is that your job is a responsibility, less a craft. And by that, I mean, a designer has a very specific craft in creating great experience. An engineer has a very specific craft in building with code. A researcher has a very specific craft. A data scientist has a very specific craft. But a product manager's job is to bring those people together. And to have various experiences in your past is quite good. You bring a different light, a different approach, and different problems and different teams need that. So very fortunate. I've always felt I've had an unfair advantage being in all of these very different environments and can bring some of those experiences to bear. And then also very privileged to work with exceptional people who are great at their craft in each of these spaces. So yeah, definitely not a linear path, but one that has been rich.
Thank you. We had the pleasure of interviewing Michael for one of our previous events. And I think everyone was shocked to learn that there were so few product managers at Notion at the time. So now that you're here, we're wondering how it's that been working with a small team, and now that you're going to start to scale it.
Oh, it's wonderful. I too was surprised actually when I was speaking with Ivan and Michael and Simon and the leadership team at Notion. In the back of my head, one of the questions was, well, if they've gone so far, why now? What's the difference? If you have engineers, you can do the rest. And typically that means they are the first hires in a company. And then eventually you realize that the quality, maybe if you're a consumer company, matters, and you'll start to hire a designer and that skill set grows. But to the point I was making earlier, product managers' jobs are to get the most out of the people around them, to balance the expertise, to act as sort of the responsible party, not because they're the best, but because they see all the other pieces and can balance design expertise with legal expertise. And so Notion has done a great job of it. It empowered so many people internally to make these decisions. The engineers are quite design-minded. The designers can write code. The marketers can think a lot about prioritization and how to tell stories. And that's wonderful. I actually think of that as such a strong skill to have inside of a company. And I'm very fortunate to join a company that's not overly reliant. At the same time, when you join an organization and you want to add product managers, you want to show that you have value. You want to make sure that as you show up, the company sees something different is happening, that the quality of what we build is better, the speed in which we build is better, the reliability, the communication, the motivation. So that's been a lot of my effort, which is how do we take responsibilities and tasks that are weighing down these experts, and how do we take them onto our shoulders as product managers? So if that's managing a QA process, if that's writing updates to the rest of the company, if that's analyzing data, how do we take some of these parts off of engineers or designers so they can focus on the thing that they're excellent at? I don't think that means that they're not responsible anymore. Of course they're responsible. That's the benefit. But it enables them to be more focused on the thing that they're great at, and it allows other people, including product managers, to come in and be effective. So, how do we measure ourselves is a great question. I think it's a few things. The first is the happiness of those other functions. Is engineering feeling more productive? Are they feeling happier? Does design feel like the quality of what we ship is better? I think the second is speed. Do we believe our customers are receiving improvements at a faster rate? And then the last is sort of overall alignment and motivation. Do people feel like they understand where the company is going? Are they motivated to come into work every day and feel, truly inspired? And so, yeah, I've been very, very fortunate. I think, the company is in a good place, and we're very excited about growing the team and shipping more.
So on that note, can you share the future of the product for Notion?
Oh, sure. As much as I can tell you, at least. I think it's important for us to do a few things. The first is we want to solve everyday problems. We are a very flexible tool, but we want to be a powerful tool at that. And to be a powerful tool, we need to offer customers real value, and then we need to be part of their everyday. And we've seen this in a lot of places where customers use us as a knowledge base, a to-do list, project management, a way to collaborate on documents, a personal website. And it's important to us that we continue to give them the pieces in which they can build the tools that matter to them. And so we're very lucky to have three almost slightly different types of customers. We have individuals who use us in their personal lives. We have small businesses. We have large businesses. For individuals, it's important that we build high quality, consumer grade, delightful product, because individuals have free choice. They can choose any tool they want to solve any problem they want. And if they don't believe that this is of the highest quality, they'll simply choose a competitor. No problem. They'll walk away next day. And secondly, it's free. For individuals, Notion is an entirely free product. So there, what we're really pushing is, what is the experience? How delightful is this? Is it something people want to use? And do we serve a daily problem? Can we help you with something in your life? For small companies, they're the first sets of people who pay us. And we want to make sure that what we offer them is something of value, that they're not only choosing to use the product, but they're choosing to pay for it because they believe they're getting a good return. Their company is more productive. Their team is more happy. Their communication is more clear. And so for that group, we often look to see, how do they react? Are they more productive? What are the asks that they have? And so to that extent, we want to continue to push our way into not just high quality, high craft, but high function. So perhaps you're trying to organize the projects in your team to ship products faster, or to make better t-shirts, or to survey your customers better. And we hear that from our customers, and we want to be a part of their daily needs. And the last is large companies. Large companies are the most discerning. They make a choice and they rely on the reliability, the scale, the security, and the productivity and the delight. And they want to know when they make a decision that it is a long-term commitment. And so while our consumers tell us whether the product is of high quality and delight, and our small businesses tell us if it is productive, it's truly the large companies who tell us that we are a lasting and powerful tool that deserves to be in the conversation with everyone else. And if so, they reach the most people because they employ the most people who will then bring it back into their homes and use it as individuals all over again. So for us, it's almost a very natural cycle. And so where we're going across this, continue to build delightful things that people can use in their daily life. We do this by listening. We do this by seeing how people operate. making their own personal websites, making their to-dos. Let's make sure that we're productive in the day-to-day and week-to-week of a small business. And we do that by looking at how they're using us. Documents, knowledge bases, projects. Those are the main areas of focus. We acquired a calendar company, so calendar is coming soon. And then when we look at large organizations, scale, security, reliability. Can we be something that is a partner to you for a long period of time? And for at least the foreseeable future, that's what we'll be pushing.
Great, thank you. So Notion is a global communication tool, and so people with different languages, different nationalities, different cultures use your product. So how do you balance all of the sort of requests and needs from all over the world and your product backlog and your future roadmap?
Totally. What a good question. I think, again, it comes back down to what we're trying to accomplish. There are 1.5 billion people in the world who are going to go to work and be reliant on software. That's the state, and it's going to go higher. It's growing. And there's 20 million people who build the software that largely runs the world. And that gap is the thing we're trying to address. We want people to be able to make their own tools. We want your ability to customize and tailor software to be truly ubiquitous. Every one of us should be able to do it because we all work differently. We all have different goals. And so to your point, it is global. And the way that we pursue that path is to empower people. Is not to build everything for them. It's actually instead to give them the building blocks themselves. So we're always listening. We want to hear from our customers, and we do that through our communities, which exist in every country. We do that through research, where we ask questions to people who use Notion and don't use Notion. We do that through our customer success teams and our customer experience teams. We're constantly listening. But then the next step of that is, when we hear all these things, what are the common problems? What are the most common problems that can be solved in a way where we offer a building block that maybe in one country or for one type of customer, they'll use one way and another in another way. And that's often the difficult part about what we do. We hear a lot of problems and we understand them, and then we try to understand, okay, what is the most powerful thing we can offer in the shortest amount of time? And so a lot of it, I think, is that translation. And it's difficult, truthfully, because of the huge gap between the types of people who use Notion. Everyone from an executive in a large automotive company all the way to a student in a small college. And so there are things, however, that they have in common. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we try our best to focus on. The second piece is community. Our community matters quite a lot to us. They are also builders. And so as we build and we hear from those builders, we understand what it is we need to give them so they can serve other people and inspire others as well. So yeah, the process is about listening. It's not always one for one. And we certainly hear when people are frustrated about features that they want. But for us, it's a lot about building blocks. How do we give people the blocks that allow them to build the tools that they need?
Have you had any feedback in particular from Japan that you found is unique or different?
Always. I think there's always, differences country to country, use case to use case. I think where we are right now with just globally is we hear quite a lot about improving our search. We hear quite a lot about improving our navigation. And so we're constantly kind of working on those things. And I think those problems are unique also to different languages. And so even most recently, we did a big improvement in the search speed and search accuracy. And specifically for our Japanese customers, we put extra effort into making sure that Japanese search would render much, much more accurately and much faster. So when we hear it and we know that we can do something, we're very, very happy to do it. And we've been very lucky to have a strong, engaged community in Japan.
So going back to a previous role at Robinhood, you had you scaled the product organization tenfold, and you helped the company go public. And we were wondering, can you tell us any tips or tricks or how you were able to scale the team so quickly and be so successful?
Sure. I think scaling is always challenging because it increases complexity. When there's 2 people, very easy to stay on the same page. When there's 5 people, surprisingly a little bit harder. There's, many pairwise. When you get to 15, the number gets quite large. And so, the basics become really important. 1, does everyone know why we're here? Right? Do we all have the same North Star? Do we see success the same way? And for us at Notion, success is quite simple. Do the customers love using our product? Do customers rely on us every day? And do customers value the service that we're giving them? And for me and for the team, it's about repeating that quite a lot. Can we tell people why we're here? Can we explain to people the world that we hope exists, that people can make their own tools? And then can we show them how we're making progress against that? And if we can repeat that and everyone can be aligned, then it's easier to bring more people on. The second thing I would say is to be extremely customer obsessed. When you add more people, you add more opinions. So ultimately, there has to be some underlying truth that we all agree on. And there are many ways to establish that truth. One is you can simply listen top down. Ivan can say, this is the thing that I want, and we will go and do it. And sometimes that happens. That's about vision and direction. But also we need to have a common currency across our team. And for us, that's the customer. What are customers saying? What are customers doing? Let's leave aside who are we, what are our roles, and let's agree on data, let's agree on research, let's agree on what the customers say. So I think as you start to scale, building these common components, what is success? Where are we going? What is the reality? These are the things that become very, very important. And then the last is to realize that you want to build a team that has various skill sets and various backgrounds. Because if you can do that, then you have the right people for almost any problem. You just simply have to move some things around, some responsibilities around. And so I think a lot about this, which is building a team with international experience, building a team with consumer and business experience, building a team with growth and platform experience, building a team with mobile and web experience, right? And so we're always trying to figure out as we grow, can we bring various types of experience to bear? And if we can build that team, then we should be well prepared for most challenges.
Were there any specific challenges after a company goes public?
Yeah, I think balancing short-term versus long-term thinking is a known challenge. And I think I've been lucky when I was at Twitter. We went through an IPO when I was there and went public. And I spent the majority of my time at Twitter as a public company. At Oculus, we were acquired by Facebook, which was a public company, and so private to public. And then at Robinhood, again, the majority of my time was actually private before being public. What I'd say is that when you're a private company, you can have quite a long-term vision because no one is measuring you on short milestones. So you can aspire for quite large vision and you can make progress against that. And when you go public, your responsibility to your shareholders is to give them a check-in every quarter and to give visibility to the company. And as much as you'd like to keep long-term, big picture vision, when the check-ins are every quarter, there's a natural instinct to kind of align yourself back to those cadences. And so I think, again, going back to as you scale, what's important, that North Star, that direction you want to go in, that success, it gets challenged as soon as you go public. It's going to be challenged by everybody when they ask, where is the growth? Where are the engagement numbers, et cetera? So by the time you get there, you want to be disciplined. You want to know what it is you believe in. And I think if you look at companies that are exceptional, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, these companies have had to be able to do this, maintain a very long view on what they're doing and how they're accomplishing, and to some extent, reduce the impact of the quarter check-in. But it's very hard when you go public. You're responsible. You have shareholders. It's truly a responsibility that's important. So that balance is probably the trickiest part.
Thank you. What do you feel is the most important role of the CPO?
Oh, I say this a lot about leaders and team members, which is that they're two very separate jobs. I think we often think to ourselves that there's a person, they do a job, they're a PM, they ship some products, and then they become a manager because they were good at being a PM, and now they just do the same thing, and then they do it better. And I just don't think that's right. In my experience, these are very separate, and I often tell my teams this. Some people play piano, some people move pianos, and you have to know what you do, and you have to take pride in what you do. And so for us at Notion, it's really important for me to draw those lines. If you're a PM and you're responsible for shipping, you play a piano. Your job is to delight. It's to express yourself, to be creative, and to make the people who are here truly feel like they're getting a world-class experience, which requires a deep focus on what you're doing and why you're doing it, and an expertise. But if you're a manager, if you're a CPO, if you're a product director, your job is to move pianos. It's to put people in the positions to be successful. It is not to push the keys. My job is not to go and tell people to push this one or push that one. If that's the case, I've hired the wrong people. My job is to put them in the position and to open the doors and then the light to be right and the acoustics to be there and for them to be motivated and to have shown up 1 hour before the time and to be ready and prepared to do their best work. And that's psychological. That is from a resourcing perspective. That's from an expectation setting perspective. That's from a coaching perspective. All of those things are really important. And so I think the more that you're managing, if you're managing managers, in a weird way, you're moving pianos for the piano mover. You're one more step behind. And like, how do you make sure they do their job really well? So maybe the most important requirement for me is, are we building an environment that people want to be a part of? Are we attracting great talent? Are we clear about what we want from them? And are we setting them up to succeed and holding them accountable? That's the real job.
If you can go back in time to either maybe before you were a product manager or just as you were getting started and learning the trade, what sort of advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, so many good pieces of advice. The first is like, you learn from every job. My first PM job was to manage an experimentation tool at Twitter. And I remembered being not thrilled. I wanted to be a product manager, and this was not the most glorious job. And actually, I probably learned more working on that tool than for the next 4 years combined. And the reason was because the team was smart, the problem was hard. And while it wasn't consumer facing, I learned a lot about what product changes were making an impact, what were not, how do people work together. So I think the first thing is tackle all problems as if they're all equally important. They all are. You will learn from the places you don't expect to learn from. I think the second thing is you have to have almost a very low ego. Ask every dumb question you possibly can ask. You're first surrounded by experts, and you don't have to be the expert. You do need to be credible, and you do need to be a good partner. But I feel like too often, even myself, I'm worried about perception. Will they think, oh, this person is not very smart, this person is not very helpful? But actually the opposite is true. The product manager is in the best position to ask the simplest questions. And often the simplest questions are the ones that stop the team from going forward. Why do we believe we have to do it this way? Or are we so sure that that's a bad thing? These kinds of questions often feel difficult to ask, but actually, if I look across my career, those have been the best ones. Those have been the best questions to ask. I think the third thing I would tell myself is always be asking for feedback. It is true of a product, and it is true of your career. You can only get better if you understand what's going well and what's not going well. I think lots of times in my career, especially early, I was afraid of people thinking I was not doing a good job. And I always wanted to put on quite a confident show. But I started doing my best work when I realized that actually asking and hearing the hard things were the fastest way for me to improve them. And you're constantly improving something as a PM.
Thank you. Do you have a final message to the audience in Japan?
Nothing specific. I've been so fortunate to work on products that actually have resonated with the Japanese community broadly. I don't know why, but there is something interesting about that. I worked on Twitter, and I remembered doing research in Tokyo and watching people use Twitter and how much different and how much more attached and how much more love there was in Japan. And that always started a very close relationship for me and Japan. I then fell in love with virtual reality from being in Japan. Actually, that's where I experienced VR for the first time. That's when I thought I wanted to work on it. And I was very lucky to be able to do that and to build and ship and work in the Oculus offices there. And fascinatingly enough, Notion was built largely in Kyoto and is a company that seems to do quite well with the Japanese community. So I don't know what it is, but there has been something bringing me back to the Japanese community repeatedly. I would love to continue to build products that resonate and meet the needs of the Japanese community. I'm hoping to be there very soon as well. We have a team in Tokyo. It's been a while since I've been, so very excited after the pandemic to get back. So thank you for having me. Love talking about it, and hopefully we'll continue to build great products for Japan.
Madhu, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. It's been very inspirational, and we hope that you get a chance to visit Japan soon.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much, Ken. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
Cheers.